Hi guys, I hope you're all doing really well. So as you probably saw from the title of today's episode, today we are looking at my entire horror movie collection. That is all of the horror movies that I have on physical media. As you'll see as we go through my collection, I have both DVDs and Blu-rays and one very exciting 4K. I've just never felt the need to collect solely DVDs or solely Blu-rays. I tend to just get the best edition that is there at the time, whether that is through accessibility or the cost of it. I buy both brand new movies and used and second-hand films. I feel conflicted because I want to support the filmmakers financially by buying their movies brand new, so I want to show my support for them, but I also think that buying used and second-hand is so much better for the environment and is a lot friendlier on my bank account as well. Although I will admit I'm a little bit cheeky at times, because if I'm buying for myself, I do tend to buy second-hand or get the movies in a sale or on offer. But if I am asking for Christmas or birthday as a gift, I do tend to ask for a better edition, usually a brand new Blu-ray. I have films in my collection that I have had for years, and I also have some recent purchases as well. I also have movies that I used to have in my collection years ago, but there were a few years where I moved quite regularly and it became a pain boxing up huge collections of books and movies. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to streamline my movie collection and get rid of a load of them. And as where I live now, I've been here quite a while and I'm not going to move anytime soon. I've since looked back and lamented getting rid of my lovely collection. So there are a few of those that I'm now trying to rebuy and replace in my collection. I currently organise my movies alphabetically. Now I know that might sound boring to some people, but I have tried to play around and have fun with my organising. I, for a while, had them in rainbow colours. I've also done genres and franchises, but I'm not the best at making decisions, and when you inevitably come across a film that could fit in two different sections, I just got really frustrated with knowing where to put it. So alphabetically, it's clear where it goes. And it just makes it nice and easy for me to be able to find it if I'm wanting to watch a movie or if I am doing a film stack for my Instagram page. So I thought we would just go through these movies in order alphabetically. I did do a quick count, and for individual pieces there are over 100. Some of those, or a lot of those, have collections within them, so I'm not sure about the number of actual individual horror movies that I have. But for the physical pieces, there's over 100, so I'm not sure how long this episode is going to be. It might end up being a two-parter, but for now, grab yourselves a drink, get yourselves comfy, and let's begin. First up, we have the Addams Family movie released in 1991. This was an absolute staple of my childhood, and Wednesday Addams was my spirit animal. I even went on a French exchange, and one of the French students at the school came up to me and told me that I looked like Wednesday Addams. I always dressed up as her for Halloween. I just think she's incredible, and I love this movie. And who doesn't love the MC Hammer theme song? Next up, we have the 6-movie collection of the Alien films on Blu-ray. And look, I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up, but look at how beautiful the colours are on that cover. So this is one of those that is a replacement in my collection. I did used to have the DVD collection of the 4 movies, but it was quite a chunker because each film had both the director's version and the theatrical version, and there were a few special feature discs as well. And because it was quite a thick box, that was one that I decided to get rid of. So a couple of Christmases ago, I asked for this as a replacement and upgraded to Blu-ray. And what's great about this is now I have Prometheus and Alien Covenant as well. Although I will admit, despite being a huge fan of this franchise, I haven't actually watched Alien Covenant yet, but I fully intend to get round to it. The Alien movies are special to me because they were one of my mum's favourite franchises and her favourite movies, and she couldn't wait to share those with me. I wasn't 18 when I watched them, I was younger, but she pushed it as much as she could, but then just couldn't wait anymore, and we watched them and I adored them. I think that Alien and Aliens are strong for different reasons. Alien is more of your horror, Aliens is more of the action, but Ellen Ripley is such an inspiring and incredible character, and I even find enjoyment in Alien Resurrection because it is essentially aliens versus space pirates, and what is not to love about that? Next up, we have Annabelle Comes Home. This is the only movie in the Annabelle collection that I have. It might actually be the only movie I have of the Conjuring universe. I think it was summer 2020. I was trying to catch up on all of the Conjuring universe movies. The first 2 Annabelle films were on Netflix, so I watched those, but Annabelle Comes Home was nowhere to be found, so I thought, why not treat myself to the actual physical copy of it? And I actually think this is the second best in the Annabelle movies, my favourite being Annabelle Creations, but I think that this one has a nice story. I think it's quite sweet. I think it has some genuinely creepy scenes, and McKenna Grace is phenomenal. I loved her in The Haunting of Hill House, and I thought she was great in Ghostbusters as well. So yeah, my only Conjuring universe movie. Next up, we have April Fool's Day. Now, this is a movie that I haven't watched yet. Last April Fool's Day, Instagram fired up with posts about this movie. And when I read into it, I thought it was perfect for me. It's like an Agatha Christie whodunit murder mystery meets horror slasher. So I bought myself a copy. I could only get it on DVD. There wasn't a Blu-ray version available in the UK, so I got it on DVD. And yes, this April Fool's Day, I will be checking this one out. Next up, we have The Babadook. This was a steal at £2, but another one I've not watched yet. I know. It's just, as amazing as this movie is supposed to be, I've also heard that you're supposed to be in the right headspace for it. It's quite heavy going emotionally, and I just haven't ever really felt ready to watch it. But it's in my collection, and I will watch it one day. I will. Next up, we have Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Oh, and I absolutely love this Alfred Hitchcock signature collection. I think these covers are stunning. This little corner here, the icon changes for each film. So for Rear Window, it's a pair of binoculars. I think for Psycho, it's a knife. The Bird's obviously a little bird. I love this collection. I adore Alfred Hitchcock's movies. He's one of, if not my favourite film creator. I watched Psycho and became obsessed with him, and I watched all the classics, Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Dial M for Murder. I came to The Birds though in my early 20s, so it's quite a bit later after the others, but I instantly loved it. I think this is a horror movie. It is a creature feature for sure, but it has some horrifying scenes, and I think that Tippi Hedren is absolutely adorable in it. Next up, we have the original Black Christmas, and look at this beautiful cover, this bloody bauble. This is a 101 Films edition, if that's not too shiny. I bought this a couple of Christmases ago. It was the first time I watched Black Christmas. I know, terrible. It's a great movie. I love John Saxon, and I think that this just doesn't get the credit it deserves in how influential it was in creating a lot of the staples we know in slasher movies. I rewatched it this last Christmas because I did a ranking episode of all of the Black Christmas movies. I will link it somewhere here. Yeah, the classic is a classic for a reason. Next, we have Black Xmas. I bought this as well for doing my ranking episode because I couldn't find it on streaming anywhere. I watched this originally when it came out in the cinema. It was fine. It is what it is. It's a typical early 2000s movie, very gory. Good cast, I would say. Not particularly for their acting abilities, but just it's a fun early 2000s cast. You've got people from other horror movies, from Mean Girls, from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on these two, then you can go check out my Black Christmas ranking episode. Next up, we have Blair Witch, the third movie in the Blair Witch franchise and the second sequel to the original. I know a lot of people don't love the sequels to the original movie. I haven't seen the second one, so I can't say about that, but I do love this one. I was pleasantly surprised. I think that it has some very effective scares in it, and I think that the upgrade in technology makes the found footage quite interesting, and this cover is absolutely beautiful. A couple of Halloweens ago in the UK, they did this Fright Club UK collection where all of the films have these beautiful black and orange sleeve covers. You've got the original, what I think is the original movie cover underneath, but yeah, this is lovely. I would have got more in the collection, but that would have just been duplicating films I already had, but very nice covers. Next, we have the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. I was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was in my teens, and I think that my generation was really lucky to have a character like that who's so strong and inspirational, in our teen years. I discovered that this movie existed, had to watch it. I love it. It has Christy Swanson in it, who's a brilliant Buffy. It also has Donald Sutherland and Luke Perry and David Arquette, pre-Scream David Arquette. I think he's maybe 22. No, he must be younger than that, maybe 21, 22. But yeah, I love this movie. The 90s fashion is incredible and the soundtrack's fun as well. Next up, we have The Burbs. Now, I do think that this is a horror movie. It reminds me very much of Rear Window. I know Rear Window is set in one room and this is set in the suburbs, like a cul-de-sac in the suburbs, but it gives me those cozy vibes of this very small setting, and it's really more about human behaviour and human psychology. And it's an incredible cast. I mean, Carrie Fisher and Tom Hanks, what more can you want? I think this is a great watch for summer as well. I watch this every summer if I can. This is an Arrow edition, but this must be a different Arrow edition to the ones with the colour bars on the bottom, because it doesn't have that or the second cover, but it's definitely got the arrows on, which is confusing. Next up, we have the original Candyman, and an absolute steal at £1. This was a second-hand one, and it's a collector's edition, so we've got lots of lovely special features on it. I watched the original Candyman about 13, 14 years ago. Really enjoyed it. I think that it's, one of those horror movies that has so much commentary and so many themes in it that you can watch it so many times and still find more in it. With the new Candyman coming out, I thought that it would be good to revisit the original, so that's why I bought myself a copy for my collection. Next up, we have the original Child's Play. This is another one I found secondhand. This one was £2. Again, quite late to the Child's Play franchise. I only came across it, it's existed for years, but I watched it for the first time a couple of years ago. That lovely summer of 2020 when we all had so much time on our hands, I really dedicated a lot of time to catching up on a lot of horror movies that I hadn't seen before, and I loved it. I absolutely love the Child's Play franchise. They're not all strong movies, don't get me wrong, but Chucky is an incredible antagonist, and Tiffany as well. I absolutely love these two, and I snapped this up when I found it for £2. Next up, we have The Craft, an incredible movie. This was released in 1996. Oh my word. So same year as Scream. So that was a very strong year for Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich, who both star in this as well. Now, The Craft, one year when it was Halloween, my mum came back from one of the supermarkets and she had picked up The Craft on VHS. Yes, VHS, I am that old. For me to watch on Halloween night. Watched it, loved it. I was having a whole witchy phase at that time. I wanted to be a Wiccan. I loved it. And of course, because it had Neve Campbell in it from Scream, what else, what's not to love? I didn't have it in my collection though. I left my VHS at my parents', so I didn't have it in my collection. So I think it was maybe was it my 2020 Halloween watch list? I think it probably was. I decided to get myself a copy of it on Blu-ray so I could watch it for my 31 days of Halloween. Next up, this is a brilliant one. I love creature features. I don't know what it is about them. I love them, and especially if they have a water setting. And I was really impressed with Crawl. This is a fantastic creature feature. It's set in Florida, and I think is it alligators rather than crocodiles, but there's a hurricane, and our leading lady, I can't remember her name, she goes to rescue her dad, and she is sort of thwarted by alligators. But I think that what is an incredible plot point about this is that she's a competitive swimmer, so it really feels organic that she can hold her own when trying to avoid and outswim these alligators. But I would highly recommend this if you've not seen it. This is a fantastic, fun creature feature. Next up, we have Dead Silence. And yes, I have Dead Silence on Blu-ray. I adore Leigh Whannell and James Wan. Leigh Whannell more than James Wan, but I love their movies, and I decided that I wanted to work my way through all of their movies and build up my physical media collection of them. I want to have all of the Leigh Whannell and James Wan movies, and so I got Dead Silence. I know it's not their best, and I know that even Leigh Whannell himself just doesn't like this. He just says that he gave into pressure from the studios to churn out another movie after the success of Saw, but it is what it is. There's still stuff to enjoy in it. I'm not really selling it, am I? Anyway, I own Dead Silence. Next up, we have another fantastic creature feature set in water, and that is Deep Blue Sea. This is one I have on DVD, but potentially I would like to upgrade this to Blu-ray one day. I love this movie. This is possibly my favourite shark movie after Jaws. It was released in 1999. In the UK, they had a phase of doing creature features in these beautiful sleeve covers. I love the colour range on this. This is very much my vibe. But underneath it does have the original colour and cover, which I love. I originally had Deep Blue Sea on VHS when I was younger, and I had one of those video TV combos in my room, and Deep Blue Sea just lived in the tape player, and I would watch a bit and then watch a bit more and then watch a bit more. When I got to the end, I would rewind it and just start all over again, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I don't know what it is about it that I love. I think the cast is incredible, with Thomas Jane, LL Cool J, Michael Rappaport, Stellan Skarsgård, and Samuel L. Jackson. And Samuel L. Jackson has an incredible scene in this film. I think when it came out, it was probably considered quite a bad, cheesy shark film. But, retrospectively, with how many bad shark films we've had, aside from a handful, I think that this is probably given more credit now for actually being stronger than we originally thought it was. I also have Deep Blue Sea 3. I do not own Deep Blue Sea 2. I don't really know why I own Deep Blue Sea 3. I think I'd gone to the supermarket, I saw this was out, I saw the cover of water and shark teeth, and I thought, I like Deep Blue Sea, and I think they caught me at a weak moment. I think they really just caught me at a weak moment. The thing underneath is the same as the sleeve, nothing very exciting about this. This is not a great movie. It is not a great sequel. It is not a great creature feature. I watched it once when I bought it when it came out 2020. I've not watched it since. I don't know if I will rewatch it again. Next up, we have Doctor Sleep, the wonderful sequel to Stephen King's The Shining. Now, this movie is incredible, and I keep wanting to re-watch it, and I never get round to it. It's such a long movie. I can't remember how long it is, but it's so long. This is a beautiful yellow edition, and this is a limited edition, actually. I didn't know that. It has the director's cut and theatrical cut. So I want to rewatch it, but which one to rewatch? This is an incredible movie. Ewan McGregor does an incredible job. Oh, and Rebecca Ferguson is one of my absolute favourite actresses, and I love Rose the Hat. I actually did a cosplay for her, which is on my Instagram. Yeah, I love this movie. Next up, we have the Evil Dead remake that was released in, I believe, 2013, 2012. I love this. I, again, am late to the Evil Dead franchise, and the only one I've not seen yet is The Army of Darkness, but I watched this, and what a ride. I watched this on my 4K OLED telly with the surround sound, and let me tell you, this was an experience. The light and shadow and the colours was really, really shown well on the television, and the surround sound, it made it creepy as hell. It's so bloody, it's so violent, but it's so wonderfully done. It's not just gore for gore's sake. It's such a clever story, having the main character, she's a recovering drug addict, and her friends have taken her to this cabin to make sure she goes cold turkey. I think it's such a good reason to place them in the cabin and make them remain in the cabin. So the story really matches the grittiness of the gore as well, and yeah, love this movie. Next up, we have another classic in The Exorcist This is another one I picked for my 2020 31 Days of Halloween. I'd not seen it before. I only got it on DVD because it was cheaper and I think the quality was fine. Beautiful movie. I understand that, you know, it's been considered the scariest movie ever made. It is quite creepy. It didn't really scare me. It was just more about the aesthetic of it, that 70s style, the lighting that was used as well. Yeah, absolutely love this one. And that leads me on to my next one, The Exorcist III. And this, I believe, is the first other like proper arrow collection that we have come across. I have a handful of arrows now, slowly building up my collection. Exorcist III, an incredible movie. I've not seen any of the other sequels. I heard the second one wasn't very good, so I skipped that. I got this one. There are two versions, and I think this has both. There's the Legion edition and the theatrical cut. I think I watched the Legion one. It's the one where there's more screen time with Chucky. Brad Dourif, who is phenomenal in this movie. But yeah, I would recommend this. Hands down, one of the greatest jump scares in any horror movie. Next up, this movie, The Faculty. I love this movie. This is another staple of my teen years. I had this on VHS, I think. This was it 99? I believe this one came out. No, 98. Oh my goodness. I had this on VHS, and this was another one that I watched a lot. They were moody, grungy teens, and you know, I had a bit of a grungy phase, and this just spoke to me. I loved Josh Hartnett and Jordana Brewster and Elijah Wood as well. How can you not love Elijah Wood? He's brilliant in this. I'm so pleased that Elijah Wood has come back to horror because he's really good in it. Okay, don't judge me on this next one. I will explain. I have Final Destination 3D, or is it called The Final Destination? Anyway, it's the bad one in the franchise. Yeah, this is the only Final Destination movie that I have in my collection. I bought it secondhand. I think it was £1. I'm wanting to get all of the Final Destination movies because this was one of my favourite franchises when I was a teenager. The first and second films I had in my collection, and I adored them. I watched them so much. I love the third and the fifth one as well. This one is the worst one, but it's the only one I have come across in the wild. And for £1, I thought, you know, I like the idea of having a full collection, so I'll get it. Okay, next up we have another classic, John Carpenter's The Fog. I love this Blu-ray cover. Look at these blues and blacks, absolutely stunning. I like The Fog. I know it's considered quite boring by some people, but I enjoy it. I love horror movies that are set near, on, in, anywhere around water. And I love that this is kind of a harbour town with the lighthouse and the idea of these ghostly pirates. So I enjoy it. And Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a fun watch. Next up is my only Friday the 13th movie. I have part 2, which is one of my favourites. This is probably one that I rewatch the most, mostly because it's the only one that I own. These are so hard to come by, these movies. I'm not willing to pay over £100 for the big fancy collections. I don't love the franchise that much, but I found this in the wild for £2, so I had to snag it, and I do like that one. If you haven't already seen, I am currently reviewing the Friday the 13th franchise. I've done part 1, 2 and 3, so I will link that playlist somewhere here, so if you're a fan of Friday the 13th or Jason Voorhees, don't forget to check that out. Next up, we have another staple of my childhood, Ghostbusters. Like the Addams Family, this is a perfect gateway entry horror movie. It's spooky, it's ghosts, but it's so family friendly. And Sigourney Weaver and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray are fantastic. In fact, the entire cast. I mean, I can't remember his name. This dude, the guy who was in all 80s and early 90s family movies. It's just such a fun watch. I love it. I love it so much. And I loved Afterlife. It made me cry. Next up, we have Ghost Ship. I enjoy this movie. It's not the best, but again, it taps into my love of aquatic horror, which I've just discovered is the term. I thought it was water horror. It's not. It's aquatic horror. Yeah, I think it's a decent movie. I love the idea of, instead of a haunted house, having the haunted ship. I think the cast is reasonably good. and it has, in my opinion, one of the best cold openings and title cards ever. The hilarity of that bubblegum pink Barbie title card, it doesn't match the, a haunted ship horror movie about boat scavengers. But anyway, yeah, it's a fun ride. Next up, we have Gremlins 1 and 2. I didn't grow up with these. Well, I didn't watch them growing up, despite them coming out in the 80s and the 90s. But it's a good one to have in your collection. It's a good Christmas movie. I have to say, though, the first one, I'm not sure I'm supposed to find it funny, but the scene where the girl is talking to the main character, I can't remember his name, but anyway, the girl's talking to the boy about her dad and how he died. I find that scene hilarious. I'm not sure I meant to, but anyway. Next up, we have The Grudge, the American remake made in, I believe, 2005. The reason I have this in my collection is because it has my girl, Sarah Michelle Gellar, in it. Now, I love J-horror and K-horror, and I always try to watch the original. But out of curiosity, I do also like to see the American remakes if it has one. I haven't, however, seen the original Ju-on, because some people have told me that it is one of the scariest movies they have ever seen. And this is my kind of horror. This is what gets me. Ghosts and supernatural, this is what scares me. And I'll get into it more further on in my collection. But there is another J-horror movie that scarred me for years, and I'm just not ready to be scarred like that again. But I did watch the American remake. It's fine. It's, kind of creepy, and, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Bill Pullman, but it's not the best. But I like that I have it in my collection. Next up, we have another classic, Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. And I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but you've got, Michael's mask, and then the pumpkin as well. So this is a secondhand DVD copy that I got. I did an episode where I compared the original Halloween to the Rob Zombie's Halloween. So I got myself this copy for my collection because, well, I think it's a staple of everybody's horror collection. If you want to know my thoughts on it, I have, like I said, got an episode where I compared this to the Rob Zombie remake. I'll link that somewhere as well. We do also have in the house another edition. We have this Blu-ray. I think the sleeve is the same as the front. This is my son's copy. Halloween was his favourite movie for a while. He has a shiny brand new Blu-ray while I have my second-hand DVD. Next up, we have Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. This movie is bonkers, and I kind of love it. I watched it for the first time for Halloween 2021. That was my 31 Days of Halloween, and I watched it and I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a movie where there's a company that is trying to murder all the children in the world through Halloween masks. So yeah, it goes there. Okay, next up we have Happy Death Day. Now, I really love this movie. I know it's not to everybody's taste because it's kind of a horror comedy. Not everybody loves that, and I know that Blumhouse Productions can be hit and miss for people, but I really enjoy this, and I think that Tree is a really fun final girl who goes on a really good character journey. I asked for this on Blu-ray for my birthday because, well, I wanted to watch it for my birthday. I have seen the second one, don't own it. It's fun, I enjoy it, but I don't love it as much as I do the original. Next up, we have Hellfest. Now look at how incredible that cover is. I do love the artwork for this cover, but I do not love this movie. I bought this because it was on offer, and this was part of my 31 Days of Halloween for 2021. I get the appeal. A horror night for horror fans. It's an incredible premise, but for me there were too many scenes that were anxiety inducing, that it just wasn't a fun watch. And I know that that's more about me than the movie, but I probably won't rewatch this one, which is a shame, but that is a beautiful cover. Okay, next up you're really going to be questioning my taste in horror here, but next up we have House of Wax, the infamous early 2000s horror movie that killed off Paris Hilton. So this is a remake of a remake, actually. The Vincent Price one is not the original. It's a typical early 2000s slasher. The characters are, mean and snipe at each other. The plot is not the strongest, but I think visually it's quite cool. The House of Wax is really good, and I think some of the kills in it are sort of bordering on like a Saw trap kill. But yeah, I don't even know why I have this in my collection. I think I just had a hankering to watch it one day and I couldn't get it for free on streaming, and for the price of the DVD I could have rented it to stream, and I just thought, well, I might as well buy the hard copy because then I can watch it as many times as I want. Next up, we have House on Haunted Hill, which was released in 1999. It's a remake of the original castle, House on Haunted Hill. I didn't watch this when it first came out. I saw the trailer, thought it looked really scary, but when I watched the Netflix Haunting of Hill House, I decided that I wanted to watch all adaptations of House on Haunted Hill or The Haunting of Hill House. So I got this to complete my collection of watching those. Not the best in my opinion. It's fun. I think that Jeffrey Rush and Famke Janssen, they're married couple that snipe at each other. They're pretty entertaining. But overall, yeah, I didn't love this one. I do also have I Know What You Did Last Summer on DVD. Now, this is one of the movies that I had in my collection that I streamlined for some reason, despite it being one of my favourite horror movies. It's got this lovely red spine, which I enjoy because a lot of horror movies tend to just have a black spine, so I like this lovely red one. And I found this secondhand for £2 and I snapped it up because I wanted it back in my collection. This was before this release came out. I kept my DVD collection because it just reminded me of me having my copy of it when I was a teenager. So I have both copies. Okay, next up we have Insidious. And we have Insidious Chapter 2, Insidious Chapter 3, and yes, Insidious The Last Key. Now, this came about for me wanting to watch all of the Leigh Whannell movies, and in that summer of 2020, like I said, I decided to watch this franchise and I just fell in love with it. I watched the first one and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I would be up in the night just thinking about this movie, and I made my way through all of them. I first bought this one because I couldn't find this on streaming for free anywhere, so I thought I would probably want my own copies of them, so I bought this one first. I then got the first two. I think these two were second hand, and then it took me quite a while to eventually get Chapter 3, but it was on sale in HMV, so I managed to complete my collection. I think that the Insidious movies are fantastic. It's a great franchise, and I think that Leigh Whannell and James Wan did an incredible job in creating this universe. And I also have to say that Chapter 3 is one of my favourites in the franchise, and this was Leigh Whannell's directing debut, and I think that he did an incredible job with it. It was really a sign of things to come. And talking of greater things to come, my extended edition of Invisible Man. This was hands down my favourite horror movie of 2020. It was the last movie that I watched in the cinema before everything happened, and it was an incredible viewing experience. It has, like The Exorcist III, in my opinion, one of the best jump scares, and when that happened, the cinema room went wild. Everyone jumped together and then everyone laughed with relief together, and yeah, it's an incredibly done film, but I think the problem is, despite having it in my collection and I love it, it's not one that I rewatch a lot. It is a long film and it's not one of those easy, comforting watches, but as I'm completing my Leigh Whannell collection, it was inevitable. Next, we have the original It, the TV series version that came out in 1990. I bought this secondhand for £2, and the reason I bought this is because me and my son were watching all of the It movies, and I didn't think he was quite ready for the remakes, so we watched this one first as kind of an entry level for him. It's good. It Chapter 1 is a very important film to me, so this doesn't match up to it, but I will say that Tim Curry's Pennywise is very scary, and it's a fun little watch. Next up, we have It Chapter 1, released in 2017, and look at this beautiful shiny balloon here. I love this movie. This movie just broke my heart. I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw the trailer and thought that it would be too scary. But I did buy it as soon as it came out on physical media, and I watched it and I fell in love. I fell in love with this movie. I fell in love with the Losers Club. I identify with the Losers Club so much on such a personal level. I feel like when I was a kid, I would have been the Losers Club, or maybe that's just wishful thinking, but yeah, I really identified with them, and it's a very special movie to me. Definitely one of my favourites, and love it. And of course, to round off my It collection, we have It Chapter 2. Now, I know that not everybody loves this version, but I think that it's fine. It's a fine follow-on from the original. It's not as good as the original in my opinion, but I think that it has some good scares. I think it has some beautiful moving moments. I think the soundtrack is just as incredible. The end song, Stan's Letter, makes me cry every single time I hear it. I'm not even kidding. Every time it makes me cry. And the casting of the adults for the children is scary. It's eerily good. And yeah, it's fine. Also, this one has 90 minutes of unseen extras. It's limited edition. Okay, next, another classic, Jaws, and another one of my favourite horror movies and favourite movies overall. I love this film. Creature feature, set in water, incredible story, incredible acting, incredible practical effects. It is a classic for a reason, and a very important movie in the movie world. It is what created the summer blockbuster. It changed... I can't remember all of the aspects, but it changed how we market and release movies. It's just wonderful. I love this film. Next up, we have Killer Klowns from Outer Space, another wonderful Arrow edition. This one is actually my son's film. He watched it with me and fell in love with it. It's a fun, daft B movie about killer clowns from outer space with killer popcorn and pies that melt you. It's fun. Next up, we have Little Shop of Horrors. This is the colour remake, the musical one. I haven't seen this, I know. I do love the soundtrack. I do know about it, but I've never watched it all the way through. It's one of those that I've probably caught little bits of here and there, but we bought it with the intention to all watch it together all the way through, and then never did. But I will get round to it eventually. Next up, we have The Lost Boys. And again, this is one of these funky sleeve covers, but underneath we have the fabulous original cover. Now, I only got this on DVD because I hadn't seen it before. I didn't know if I was going to love it, and there was quite a price difference between Blu-ray and DVD, so I just got the cheaper version. Ended up loving it. Wished I'd got it on Blu-ray, but the DVD is fine. It does have a lot of special featurettes, if you can see there. Love this movie. Have only seen it once. Keep intending to rewatch it, but there's just so many films out there. Sometimes you can't watch everything you want to. But I love the soundtrack. I still play a lot of the songs from it on repeat. I love the fashion of it. I love the setting of it. The vampires are this incredible version. They're just this sort of funky punk rocker sexy version that I enjoy. And of course, it's got Alex Winter from Bill and Ted. Okay, next up, this is a cheesy one, but I love this. This is an absolute comfort movie for me, and that is The Meg. Again, creature feature, shark movie, water setting. It just speaks to me. This was another one like Deep Blue Sea that had the blue and black sleeve cover, but I guess I preferred the original cover, so I took that off. I didn't see this at the cinema. Bought it one night for a movie night. Shark movies. I usually check shark movies out, whether they're going to be good or bad. Ended up loving it. I mean, it's an action movie. You know it's an action movie because Jason Statham is in it, but it's also horror because it's creature feature. It has Rainn Wilson as a billionaire in it, and I love Rainn Wilson, so I really did like that. I love that it's half American, half Chinese, so a lot of the language is Mandarin. There's a lot of Chinese actors in it. Ruby Rose is in it, and I love her in it. She looks like a character out of sort of Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil. I love her look in this movie. But yeah, this is another brilliant creature feature. And we have The Mist, Stephen King's novella The Mist made into a movie. This is an incredible addition. This one has both the colour and the black and white version. If you have not seen it in black and white, I would highly recommend it. It really, really makes you feel like you're watching one of those 1950s creature movies. And I have done an episode on this. This movie is important to me because This is the movie that I talked about in my first ever episode for What the Horror. Up until recently, it was my most successful and popular watched episode. So this is an important one to me because it's what launched this channel. It's a great movie as well, though. If you want to know my thoughts on it, go check out the episode. I will link it. But yeah, I can't say enough about this. The way it's made, its commentary, its acting, it's incredible. So I think we're going to leave it there for now and make this a 2-part episode because this has been quite long. I've been recording for an hour and 10 minutes and I'm only halfway through my collection. So yes, I'm going to split this into 2, but don't worry, the second part will come out not too far in the future. It may come out after my ranking of Leatherface. I'll have to check my scheduling. But if you did enjoy this, please subscribe so you don't miss out on my part 2. And if you love horror, do check out my other episodes. I'm covering a lot of the big franchises and new releases as well. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and I will see you in part 2. Bye guys.